Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. I'm a little late for 12 minutes. My apologies for that. I can see comment from Svetlana Vladimirova. Is there any joke? Is there any problems with electricity? No, it's all good. And so yes, dear friends, thank you very much for joining this stream. Hopefully, there are no technical issues. Is everything good? I guess there is a okay. I Yes, there was technical issue. So um, so hopefully now sound is good, and there is a lot of news, dear friends. A lot of news, important news that I want to share with you in this live stream. In case you have not watched today's first update or yesterday's live stream or day before, I will just let you know that I made some changes in the schedule. From now on, at least for some time, I will have a one pre-recorded video in the first half of the day, and later on at 10-11 p.m. Moscow time live stream with all the additional news that during the day Russian media and public will pay attention to. And in early morning, maybe I will publish a couple of short clips from evening live streams. So just to let you know, dear friends, hopefully many members of our community will join this stream, and in next several days, all the members that are watching my updates on regular basis will get used to this new schedule. That's being said, dear friends, let's, as always, after news segment, I will join community chat for a little while. If you have questions, please use capital letters so that I will react on it. Also, of course, you can use super chat feature or rant feature on Rumble. If you want to support my work in general, dear friends, on this video in the description box, there is a links to my PayPal or my wife's PayPal to be more precise. Also, there is a link to Boosty. What else? You can subscribe to my Patreon, dear friends. Of course, that will be a great supporter. Hopefully, this week we will have at least several new members on the Patreon, and so yes, you can become premium subscriber too on Rumble. That's been said, let's start the stream itself. My apologies for a little longer intro. And now let's start with the news. I reported this morning, dear friends, in the first update that based on Russian Defense Ministry's early updates this morning, TASS News Agency and many other media outlets reported that during the previous night, air defense systems on duty intercepted 114 drones in different directions. Yet another attempt, relatively large-scale attempt of Kyiv regime to strike deep into Russian territory. And during the day, Russian air defense systems were continuing work to intercept enemy drones, drones that were launched by Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and NATO, basically, because without flight path and targeting data being provided by NATO countries, first of all, US and UK, Kyiv regime would not be able to launch these long-range attacks. And well, this evening, Mayor of Moscow reported that initially he reported that 7 drones were intercepted in the Moscow region, and then in a few minutes later, he made an update, Sergei Sobyanin, mayor of Moscow, that actually 9 drones were intercepted in the Moscow region while flying towards a Russian capital. Emergency services are working on places where fragments of these intercepted drones fell down. At this point, I did not see reports about casualties or more or less significant damage on the ground as a result of this attack on Russian capital. If all drones were intercepted in the Moscow region, they didn't manage to reach capital. But if any update on that, of course, in next updates, I will give you additional information. But due to these attacks on Moscow direction, dear friends, and I give you my take, what is happening, why Kyiv regime suddenly launched drones towards the Moscow. And my explanation is that Zelensky, this Western puppet, is in New York, isn't it? He will have a meeting with Trump late today in New York. I believe it's still daytime, right? So reports are that Trump will have a meeting with Zelensky, and I guess Zelensky and his team want to brag about their capabilities to strike Moscow while without thinking about potential casualties among civilians. And dear friends, I want to share with you dramatic footage of a passenger plane, civilian plane, is flying extremely low in the Moscow region because of these drone attacks on Moscow happening exactly at that time, and all the planes were instructed to take safer routes. And well, when I see this video, man, that's quite something. Let me show you, and you will understand what I mean. Just look at this, dear friends. Low over that building. This is Moscow region, dear friends. Just look at this. Once again, let me show you. It's an Airbus A380, or the biggest passenger plane, I believe. It was, according to reports that I see, it was A380. Yes, Emirati Airlines are A380. And just look at this screen, dear friends, how low this plane was flying to basically avoid any incident with the drone, right? So Kyiv regime, its NATO backers, first of all UK and US, are endangering hundreds and thousands potentially civilians. Can you imagine what would happen if this plane crashed into this high-rise apartment? Can you imagine the level of casualties? And that's what modern Western world is, dear friends. It's a terrorist gathering. Whole of Western world, dear friends, is a terrorist entity. Elites I'm talking about. Obviously, ordinary people in the West probably have no freaking idea what their governments are doing. And that's what they do. That's what they do, dear friends. They are on daily basis endangering thousands and thousands of civilians while committing terrorist attacks. And obviously, this attack on Moscow was a terrorist attack. Obviously. Let's continue with some other news. Well, Zelensky will have something to brag about, isn't it? I wonder if anybody will show Trump or his administration these videos. I wonder if Emiratis CEO or anybody, press service, will make statement about this situation, emergency situation, because this is not okay. This is not normal. And the vast majority of you, I'm quite sure, will agree with me. Meanwhile, dear friends, this morning, a number of Russian media outlets, based on Kremlin's press service, made statements that the Russian president was planning to have a meeting with the Security Council, and some important statements were to be expected. And later on, media reported about some statements that Russian president made during this meeting. Let me give you some key points. So, Russia is capable of responding to any threat, not just with the words, but through military technical measures. President Vladimir Putin stated this at the meeting with the Russian Security Council, and TASS news agency is highlighting this particular statement of Russian president. I think it is somewhat sad that Russian president has to get more specific that if needed, then Russia is capable of responding to any threat, not just with the words, but through military technical measures. And I'm afraid this explanation was needed because on several occasions, at least, number of Russian officials did made quite strong statements in regards to Western hostilities from the Western elites. What will be done if West will go with long-range attacks on Russia, if West will transfer long-range weapon systems to Kyiv regime, and so on. And because because we did not see, including, by the way, there was a statement, we all remember, that Russia might take action on military assets of countries, NATO countries, that are involved directly in these long-range attacks on Russia, but nothing happened, right? Russia did not attack no military assets of the NATO countries, and Western elites, globalists, neocons get emboldened by this, isn't it? They get emboldened big time, and now, unfortunately, we are in a situation when Russian president have to go in the specifics and specify that we have all the means necessary to take action, and this is not just the words, but we can actually do some stuff with their military technical means, right? This is, I will say, feedback for Russia when president has to go this specific, right? For everyone should be understandable from the beginning that you're not going to mess around with Russia. It's dangerous, but yet again, too many times, tremendous level of escalation from the Western elites, NATO countries were not ignored, obviously, but was reaction was with restraint, let's say, and now we are in a situation in which we are, right? Unfortunate, but it is what it is. Also, Russian president noted that Russia is prepared to continue adhering to a central quantitative restrictions for 1 year after expiration of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. In 2026, START Treaty is going to expire, and the Russian president basically said that on voluntary level, Russia will continue to uphold to this treaty, if, of course, opposite side, and that is US, will do the same. There was also some other key statements from Russian president. Let's go through some of it. So the situation in the area of strategic stability continues to deteriorate, which is true. The trend is explained by the combined impact of a number of negative factors provoking the aggravation of existing and the emergence of the new strategic risks as a result of the West's destructive steps. The foundation of constructive relations and the practical cooperation between states possessing nuclear weapons has been significantly undermined. I mean, this is all true, by the way. I mean, president is factual in his statements. And right now we have a breaking news, dear friends, TASS news agency. Probably you can see on your screen this breaking news pop up. Macron announced France's recognition of the Palestinian statehood. This was expected, of course. Let me continue with the statements of Russian president now. The system of agreements between Russia and the United States on control of nuclear missiles and the strategic defensive weapons was almost completely dismantled, which is also true. The West's destructive actions are aimed at their undermining global parity and at their acquiring or attempting to acquire absolute overwhelming superiority. Also true, West definitely tries to be in that position. Russia proceeds from their preference and the priority of political and diplomatic methods of maintaining international peace based on the principles of equality, indivisibility of security, and mutual consideration of interests. On Russia's readiness to respond to threats, the Russian president went to say that Russia is ready to respond to any strategic threats, to respond not with words, but using military technical measures. And I think these military technical measures should be or have to be used, my personal opinion, when NATO countries, first of all, US and UK secret services orchestrated attacks on Russian nuclear triad while using their Ukrainian proxies for plausible deniability. You remember what happened? There was attacks on airfields where Russian strategical bombers were located, and no one could have any guarantees that on the board of those planes, for example, there were no freaking nuclear weapons at the time of these attacks, right? Or on those air bases themselves. So this was a clear attack on Russian nuclear triad, and unfortunately, we only hear there some statements. That's it, right? And that's why Russian president now, because of at least several occasions when it was absolutely justified from every point of view if Russia would strike back on NATO countries, this did not happen. Well, now Russian president has to go and say that, well, we are ready to respond to any strategic threats, to respond not with words, but by using military technical measures. I'm afraid no one gonna listen to these statements no more in the West. If Russia had retaliated before, we would be in a different situation. But right now, I'm afraid the Western so-called elites, even though Putin is absolutely serious, I have no doubts about it. But unfortunately, due to lack of countermeasures earlier on tremendously hostile steps that NATO countries were taking against Russia, now globalists, neocons, and their puppets in the governments of Western countries not gonna listen, not gonna take seriously this statement. I mean, you share your take, dear friends, what you think, but that's my understanding of the situation. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Russia is confident in the reliability and effectiveness of its deterrent forces, Putin said, and also he went to highlight that Russia is not interested in further escalating tensions and fueling the arms race. And well, it is important that we are not interested in arms race. And while mentioning arms race, of course, we should take in account nuclear arms race that Washington is engaged in, right? But nevertheless, we will have no option but to respond, to take some countermeasures on all sorts of provocations that Western nuclear countries are taking. First of all, US, and you will remember, dear friends, Trump was happily declaring that they're going to create some golden dome over the US, and that is technically impossible. So therefore, we should assume that under this project of Golden Dome, US going to intensify development of and adaptation of the new type of weapon systems. Also, there were reports that US plans to militarize the space, right? And this is also something that we cannot just ignore. We may don't want to be in arms race, but including in nuclear arms race, but we cannot just sit around and look how US is intensifying works in these directions, right? Anyways, let me continue. On the fate of the New START treaty, Russian president stated that expiration of the New START treaty in 2026 means the disappearance of the last agreement on direct limitations of the missile potential, and this is strategical missiles, by the way, intercontinental ballistic missiles we are talking about, and nuclear basically weapons. A complete rejection of the legacy of this agreement would be, from many point of view, a mistaken and a short-sighted step, which in our opinion would also negatively impact the achievements of the goals of the treaty on non-proliferation of the nuclear weapons. Russia wants to try to maintain the status quo established thanks to their New START treaty, so as not to provoke a further strategic arms race and to ensure an acceptable level of predictability and restraint. Russia's preservation of their New START restrictions is possible only on the condition that United States acts in a similar manner and does not take steps that undermine or violate the existing balance of the deterrent potentials. Russia is prepared to continue to adhere the central quantitative restrictions for 1 year after the expiration of their New START. So basically, even though we already have enough indicators to assume that US has no care, US leadership has no care about New START treaty, and they're already working on development of new weapon systems and to increase number of their delivery vehicles and the warheads. Nevertheless, Moscow clearly window, opens opportunity to the US to have a talks. Let's prolong this treaty unofficially for a year, and meanwhile have a talk, because arms race not going to benefit none of us, right? That's the Russian approach. That's what Russian president is saying, as far as I can tell, and this is correct approach, because yet again, arms race, by the way, well, it's not going to end well for nobody, right? And definitely not for US, because this arms race will be not between the US and Russia. This arms race will be between US and China, and I don't think US is in a position to compete with China in any field whatsoever. Just saying, right? Moscow will act differently. I can assume that Russia's approach is not to go on full crazy mode on building like thousands of new nuclear weapons and new missiles. No, Russia's approach is to build weapon systems that cannot be dealt with any means, right? Cannot be intercepted, cannot be diffused, and so on. And that's why Russia is a leading country when it comes to hypersonic capabilities, right? So Russia don't need to build 1,000 missiles. All we need is 100 or 200. We already have that, right? Hypersonic weapon systems with multiple warheads, so that everybody in this world will know that you mess around Russia. If Russian president gives order, then any country can be obliterated, literally turned into radioactive dust, and no one has nothing to stop Russian missiles. That's the direction, technical way to deal with the issue. But China might have a different approach. They are also highly technical, but same time China can afford actually to produce big quantity of the weapon systems. And according to reports, by 2030, 2035, China plans to double its nuclear arsenal. And that's why in many occasions Washington was asking Moscow even to use its potential influence over China, to somehow initiate or help Washington to bring China into the negotiating tables. And so these three countries, US, Russia, and China, will work on a new strategic arms treaty. But Beijing always said, no, we are not interested. That was always Beijing's answer. Anyways, dear friends, interesting statements that was made by Russian president. I really feel sorry that due to some earlier statements of some other high-ranking officials, very strong statements. Now Russian president, who is always very diplomatic, Russian president don't love to talk with their threats and stuff like that. He is always calm, talks in that manner, but he is forced basically to specify in his statements that Russia is capable of responding to any threats, not just with the words, as it did happen quite a few times, but through military technical measures. And this is a warning, by the way. This is a warning, as strong a warning as it can get when it comes to Russian president. He don't talks like Trump, by the way. He is not threatening nobody left and right. This is his warning, and everyone should listen. Everyone should listen, because this is serious. Meanwhile, dear friends, unfortunately, globalists, neocons, and all the other Russian enemies, not going to listen to us, unfortunately, I think, and they are continuing to escalate with Russia, and they are continuing to provide Kyiv regime with all sorts of weapon systems that can be harmful, to Russian Federation. And for example, formally Kyiv regime today, according to some reports, presented a new weapon system, a Maritime drone. You can see on your screen, dear friends, it's like massive torpedo. According to reports that I see, formally Ukrainian company. In reality, of course, behind this program is United Kingdom, presented their projects of several this type of weapon system with different range and different payload when it comes to explosive materials. And you can see on your screen biggest example of this new type of weapons that I guess UK will provide, or maybe already did transfer to Kiev regime. And according to reports that I see, this type of largest type of this underwater vehicle can carry about 2,000 kilos or 2 tons of explosive materials. And so-called media on Kiev controlled territory already began threatening Crimean Bridge. Not some warships, not potentially, legit military targets that, can be justified to say, we're going to target this warship or that warship. No. The so-called media in Kiev controlled territory went to threaten Crimean Bridge. Civilian infrastructure, by the way, and even Western think tanks are acknowledging that Russia is not using Crimean Bridge for military purposes. Because Russia don't need to use this bridge for military purposes. There is a massive land bridge, by the way, isn't it? From mainland Russia to Crimea. So why would we use a Crimean Bridge? Even Western think tanks are acknowledging this, but nevertheless, I'm afraid the Crimean Bridge definitely could be one of the main targets of British Secret Services, British militaries that are transferring this type of weapons and all the other maritime weapon systems, by the way, to Kiev regime. I remind you that it is well acknowledged by many military experts that all the maritime operations or terrorist attacks that Kiev regime is conducting is planned and overseen by British Secret Services and British militaries, all of it. And all the weapon systems are provided by UK, mainly. And this one not going to be any different. Of course, Russian security services will pay close attention to these developments. They already knew, by the way, even before Zelensky or whomever will present this new weapon system. Of course, Russian security services already know what London was up to, and I'm quite sure some countermeasures already been taken to secure not just Crimean Bridge, but all the civilian infrastructure that could be targeted by UK and their proxy terrorist regime in Kiev. And once again, notice, dear friends, that this weapon system was unveiled today when Zelensky is set to meet with Trump, so that he and his team will have something to brag about, right? And yet again, today, there is a relatively large-scale attack on Moscow, and already 9 drones were intercepted. And you see video of that plane, isn't it? That was forced to fly extremely low, which is, dangerous, by the way. In ordinary circumstances, of course, no plane would be allowed to fly this low. But there was a drones in the air. That video was filmed in the Moscow region. And for safety reasons, I guess that plane was allowed to directed actually from control tower, to take a lower pass over their settlement where that video was filmed. Anyways, let's continue, dear friends, with some more news. TASS news agency is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated Kalinovskaya settlement in Dnepropetrovsk region. This morning, dear friends, I shared information about progress of the Russian armed forces in Dnepropetrovsk direction, and I predicted that most likely soon Kalinovskaya settlement will be liberated, and it only took like a couple of hours, and the Russian media, based on defense ministry update, confirmed information that indeed Kalinovskaya settlement in Dnepropetrovsk region was liberated. So let me show you the settlement itself. This prolonged settlement is Kalinovskaya, by the way. At this point, I don't know, I lost the counter. How many settlements already been liberated in Dnepropetrovsk region, like up to 15, I guess. So Kalinovskaya is under Russian control. Information is confirmed. And also Berezovaya settlement on north side of Kalinovskaya, also under Russian control. Earlier, I also reported, dear friends, about progress of the Russian forces in this direction when Zaporozhye and Novonikalayevka settlements were liberated. So you can see, I predicted that Russian progress in Dnepropetrovsk region will be much faster than in heavily urbanized DPR or LPR, and that's exactly what is happening. The Dnepropetrovsk region, unlike DPR, for example, is a steppe area. It's a steppe area, by the way. It's a fields, unending fields, right? And there are far fewer settlements that can be used as a strongholds than in a DPR. So once order comes, once Russian forces are feeling comfortable and they have operational space, before them, it will be up to Russia's general staff when this order will come, and we should expect a very rapid advance of Russian troops towards the Dnepropetrovsk city and the Dnieper River itself. Also, dear friends, Russian troops continue local scale offensive operations in many other directions. In Pokrovsk, Mirnograd, Russian troops already operating inside the cities, both cities, by the way, Pokrovsk and Mirnograd. Videos are circulating on internet when Russian troops are conducting a close-range fight. Russian troops were spotted basically on the street of Pugachev, right, which is outskirt of Mirnograd, and I guess soon these blocks will become under Russian control, and eventually, of course, both cities going to be liberated. There can be no doubts about that. Also, of course, there is a high attention to directions of Seversk, Yampol and Liman, also Kupiansk. We have a report, for example, today that Russian armed forces are right next to Dirilova settlement. There was a video circulating on internet when Russian troops were conducting clearing operation of some strongholds in the vicinity of this settlement. Potentially today or tomorrow, Russian Defense Ministry probably will acknowledge progress of the Russian armed forces in this area, and mappers will paint this territory as a Russian controlled. Okay, dear friends, I can go on and on some details when it comes to special military operation, but military channels will do that job better. I did provide some of their, at least some of their details, isn't it, about progress of the Russian armed forces. Let me continue with some other news now, and well, this is a horrifying news that was reported by TASS news agency based on governor of Kherson region, I believe. So, I mean, look at the headline, dear friends. The Ukrainian armed forces are burning their bodies of their own soldiers at the landfill in Kherson. This was stated by governor of Kherson region, Vladimir Saldo, and this is a governor, by the way, not some blogger or something, and without actual evidences, without photo, video evidences. I don't think governor of the Kherson region will say anything like that. Let me give you some details. The armed forces of Ukraine have begun burning the bodies of their own soldiers at their landfill in Kherson to list them as a missing in action. Kherson region governor Vladimir Saldo told the TASS news agency. I can give you some quote from his statements. We received reports that since late August, the Ukrainian armed forces in Kherson have begun mass burning the bodies of the fighters killed in Russian airstrikes. Moreover, they are burning their bodies at one of the local landfills. You can imagine the smell in the area. Clearly, the Kyiv regime is trying to not only conceal the actual losses, but also avoid payments due to the families of the fallen soldiers. Saldo said. According to him, the Ukrainian armed forces burn up 200 bodies every day, and the location was chosen with the expectation that Russian units would soon liberate that territory, sparing the Ukrainian side from possible investigation. So they are conducting this crime, basically, Kyiv regime's forces in the Kherson region. They know soon Russian troops will liberate the area, and well, Kiev regime's neo-Nazi formations that most likely are involved in this heinous crime will avoid any, or at least that's what their thought process is, probably, that they will avoid any investigation of what happened and how. But I don't think Russian investigators gonna leave it like that. They're gonna be investigation, and Russian specialists will try their best to find out who was behind this crime, as behind every other crime that was committed by Kiev regime, and hopefully all their criminals will be brought to the justice. But report itself is just unbelievable, isn't it? The level of degeneration of Kiev regime and its neo-Nazi formations is just out of this world. By the way, I mean, it's horrible what they become. Right? They were born like normal human beings, but they transform to some monsters, isn't it? RIA Novosti is also reporting that General Staff announced how their autumn draft will proceed. Dear friends, autumn draft is beginning in Russia, and well, I'm quite sure Western so-called propaganda outlets, so-called media, that is not so-called propaganda, but so-called media, that is actual propaganda. So Western so-called media outlets, of course, are gonna speculate big time that Russia is conducting mobilization, and there are hundreds of thousands of young people being drafted and will be sent to the front line. This happens every time there is a draft in Russia, and there is seasonal drafts. Now it's an autumn draft, and I guess because there are going to be some speculations, right? Russian Defense Ministry come up with their explanation, what, how, and so on. Let me give you some details on that, so that you would not be mistaken if you hear in Western so-called media that Russia is conducting some mobilization or some crap. There is no mobilization in Russia, and this is a planned draft. And the draft is, by the way, these younger people not gonna end up on the front line. They never do. Draft is basically are serving deep inside the Russian territory. They are not on the front lines. But anyways, let me give you details, by the way, on the matter. The autumn conscription for military service will run from October 1st to December 31st, announced Vice Admiral Vladimir Tsimlyansky, deputy chief of their main organization and their mobilization directorate of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces. And basic details on that. Excuse me. This year, the length of their service for their autumn conscription will not change and will remain 12 months. And here in Russia, by the way, conscription is mandatory. Everyone age 18 and up have to serve. There are some exceptions. Some young people are already working in emergency services, for example, or stuff like that. So I believe, and some are students, right? So they will go into army once they will finish study. And if they are serving in emergency services, then I believe service in emergency counts as a service for army. But let me continue with the details. So this year, the length of the service for the autumn conscription will not change and will remain 12 months. Shipments from collection points will begin on October 15. Conscripts will be notified by both electronic and paper summons. If the conscript fails to appear without a valid reason within 20 days, temporary restrictive measures will be applied to them. The draft will be conducted using their unified military registration register, which will allow commissions to grant certain types of deferments without requiring a personal appearance. Their decision on the conscription is now valid for 1 year from the date of their adoption. If a person who received the summons for whatever reason did not go to serve in a draft, then he will be sent to the next one. All recruit conscripts will serve on Russian territory and will not be sent to the special military operations zone. Military personnel, and this is case always, by the way. This seasonal draft conscription is happening regularly, always. It was never ended, right? But conscripts are never sent on the battlefield. Only episode when conscripts actually end up in the fighting, if I remember correctly, was when Kiev regime and NATO conducted incursion into Kursk region. On some areas on the border, there were border guards that were conscripts. If you remember that story, right? But then the Russian side quite quickly organized the exchange of POWs, and these conscripts were freed. And that was the only occasion that on my mind that comes to my mind when conscripts end up in actual fighting. But yet again, they were on the Russian territory. They were border guards, and it happened that Kiev regime and NATO attacked exactly on the direction where they were serving. Let me continue. So all recruited conscripts will serve on the Russian territory and will not be sent to their special military zone. Military personnel who have completed their service within their established time frame will be discharged in a timely manner and sent to their places of residence. The autumn conscription events, as before, are proceeding as planned and are not connected with their special military operation. The spring conscription assignment was completed on a time, and in full 160,000 people were sent to service. So during the spring, by the way, was another this seasonal conscription, and 160,000 young men joined the Russian armed forces during that period. The most well-organized recruitment events took place in Buryatia, Karelia, Crimea, DPR, LPR, Khabarovsk Krai, Bryansk, Leningrad, Moscow, Novosibirsk, Samara, Sakhalin, Sverdlovsk, and Tula regions, as well as in Moscow and St. Petersburg. So that's some details about this autumn conscription. So don't fail to propaganda that you might hear in the Western so-called media. There is no mobilization in Russia, by the way. It's a regular seasonal conscription, and the conscripts not going to go to the zone of special military operation. They never did. That's been said, dear friends. Before I continue, and there is a lot of news left, maybe I will share in this update half at least, and the rest will go in tomorrow's first update. I don't know. Share your take, dear friends, or what should I do? But before I continue, anyways, let me just highlight, as I always do, that this media project, dear friends, only exists as long as I have your support, community support. And so if you like my work, if you want to help me maintain this project, please, dear friends, consider to support. You can do it through several means. You can donate through PayPal or Boosty platforms. You can subscribe to my Patreon page or page on Boosty. That will be also a great supporter. You know, dear friends, I said a million times already that I've been tremendously happy, by the way, and this project will be in much more safer place if our community on Patreon will double. It's a very difficult stuff, by the way, very difficult stuff, but hopefully more members of our community, our bigger communities on YouTube and Rumble, will decide to become a Patreon of the project and subscribes to my pages, either on Patreon or on a Boosty. You can use your level of monthly support there. It starts from $5 a month. And also during the live stream, you can of course, use a super chat feature, dear friends, on Rumble, or become a premium subscriber on Rumble. Today already, I can see there was a super chat on Rumble from Blorp. Thank you very much, Blorp. I will highlight super chat from Blorp after news segment. And so yes, that's all that I wanted to say, to somehow advertise this project. And now let's continue with some more news, dear friends. And let me check what is next. And next is all these false flag operations, by the way, that NATO countries are conducting against Russia, especially actively in last couple of weeks. Today in UN, in United Nations, there was emergency talks called by NATO member states, and they are discussing these false flag operations with some drones in Poland, with some drones in alleged Russian drones in Romania, alleged Russian fighter jets crossing airspace of Estonia. All false flag operations, by the way. I have no doubts about it. And I have a short video of statements of a Polish foreign minister, Sikorski. But before I get to that short video, let me give you this news about statements of Polyansky, deputy of Russian permanent representative in UN. So Estonia has no evidence that Russia allegedly violated its airspace. Dmitry Polyansky, Russia's first deputy permanent representative to the UN, stated at the meeting of the UN Security Council. Let me give you some details. Our neighbors are now convinced that Russia was to blame for the violation of Estonian airspace. As always, sir, there is no evidence other than the Russophobic hysteria from the Tallinn, which our Estonian colleagues will vividly demonstrate to us today. Meanwhile, the facts indicate that on September 19th, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets carried out scheduled flight from Karelia region of the Russian Federation, which is in the north, by the way, to an airfield located in the Kaliningrad region, which was carried out strictly in accordance with the international airspace regulations. Their diplomat emphasized. The Russian Ministry of Defense earlier stated that Russian MiG-31s did not violate Estonian airspace. The 3 Russian MiG-31s, the ministry stated, conducted a scheduled flight. Dear friends, Polyansky is correct, no evidences. Can you imagine how many radars in the Baltics, by the way, heavily militarized area by NATO, first of all, how many radars were following these planes? How come that NATO countries, neither Estonia, neither any other, provided any freaking evidences? Actual, factual evidences that, look, we were tracking these planes, and this is the point when they entered Estonian airspace, and this is point when they leave Estonian airspace. Where is their evidences? At least several radars, I'm quite sure, of the NATO were tracking these planes. These are not stealth planes, by the way, right? These are 4th generation long-range interceptors, right? So, where is the evidences? There is none. And Polyansky, Russian representative in UN, made it very clear to everybody, right? He did not want to say that this is a false flag operation orchestrated by NATO Russophobic elites and their secret services. But I will say that, of course, this is a false flag operation. As it was a false flag operation, that story with the drones in Poland, drones that somehow fly twice as range as they actually have if they were Russian drones, Gerberas, for example, right? Some of those drones, dear friends, end up in somewhere in the middle of Poland. And Russian Defense Ministry kind of trolled these Western hysterical elites that, these drones don't have that range. And those drones could not get there if you did not take it from kill control territory where they were shot down and then you reassemble them and just talk and put somewhere in the middle of Poland. That's the only way. Otherwise, those drones could not fly this far. It's just not possible. They will run out of fuel, right? But I have shown pictures, dear friends. I cannot forget those pictures when drones was literally put on certain places, clearly by hands, right? By hands. Some drones were taped, by the way. taped. They did not look like drones that just come out from factory and were launched, man. What tapes, man? Remember, I showed you pictures when drone was lying on top of some construction. Behind was a trees, by the way, tall trees. That drone could not land there if that drone did not have a vertical landing gear and the engine and everything, right? And it clearly did not. So it's a false flag operation, of course. Russian official in UN did not went that far to say that this is a false flag operations that we are facing. And but I will say that, and I will also add that these false flag operations done for a reason. And that reason is that NATO is preparing ground for the next phase of escalation with Russia. Most likely unprecedented scale of escalation, which will counter which will be organized with a simultaneous massive long-range drone and missile attacks on Russia. That's, I think, what their plan is. Simultaneous long-range drone and missile strikes on Russia, including cruise missiles and the tactical missiles. Same time, terrorist attacks on Russian territory by assets of the NATO secret services. And there are also massive cyber attacks on Russian Federation, potentially due to absolute insanity of the Western elites. Maybe they will also try to take attempt at least decapitation strike on Russia to kill Russian political and military leadership. But anyways, whatever their case, I'm quite sure that Western elites are planning unprecedented scale of escalation with Russia. Who knows what they have planned, right? What kind of plans do they have? I can just have a guesses, isn't it? But something of until now unseen scale is about to happen, and I'm quite sure Moscow will retaliate. Of course, Russian intelligence services, Russian security services know whatever plans NATO has, right? And that's why I think Russian president today stated that if whichever force will generate threats to Russia, then we will retaliate with military and technical means. I spoke about statements of Russian president in the beginning of this live stream, and you remember, I can give you once again, dear friends, details on that. So, well, Russia is ready to respond to any strategic threats, to respond not with words, but by using military technical measures. That's a quote from Russian president's statements today. And Vladimir Putin don't use this strong language that often. We all know that. And this is quite a strong statement, right? Maybe last warning. So that's what I think. That's why these false flag operations have been orchestrated. And who knows how many other false flag operations NATO has prepared also, right? And can be unleashed today or tomorrow or day after, while preparing this ground for this next phase of escalation with the Russian Federation. So yes, Polyansky definitely is on point there, while saying that no evidences were provided by either Estonia or anybody else. Just words, just a talk, by the way, and talk is cheap. Just the talks that Russia did this, Russia did that. It's everything is Russia's fault. But where is the evidences? Anyways, dear friends, after Polyansky speech, number of other representatives make the speeches also, and among them, you guessed whom? Foreign minister. It's a foreign minister, isn't it? Sikorski, foreign minister of Poland. And let me give you video of his speech, dear friends. It's something else. I mean, let's listen to it. Just a sec, dear friends. So that's the video that I want to share.
Excellencies, this Emergency Security Council meeting has been called because a mere week after Russia sent drones into Poland, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets with their transponders off entered Estonian airspace without authorization and lingered for 12 minutes.
Yet again, no evidences, dear friends, and I remind you that talk is about MiG-31 fighter jets, right? Fastest fighter jets in service. Their speed is up to 3,000 kilometers an hour. So if those planes did not fly in circles over the Estonian airspace for 12 minutes, then there is no other way they would stay in Estonian airspace. On a straight flight, they will cross Estonia in like, I don't know, 2-3 minutes. But these people, Sikorsky and all the others, by the way, Estonian so-called leadership, are just that stupid. They don't even know what this plane is and what kind of capabilities it has. What 12 minutes, man? It's crazy. It's insane. You cannot comment this crap seriously, by the way, but this is clearly a false flag operation. I can see right now a comment from Luis dos Santos, 12 minutes, Estonia is a very big country. I mean, exactly. And laughing smiles there. Exactly, man. Estonia is a tiny, tiny territory, right? MiG-31 will need literally probably, I don't know, a minute or two to fly over. And that's it. But anyways, let's continue to listen what this moron, Foreign Minister of Poland, Sikorsky, has to say.
On the same day, 2 Russian fighter jets violated the security zone over the Polish drilling platform in our economic zone in the Baltic Sea. If these were accidents, why not immediately acknowledge them and apologize?
Yet again, evidences. I remind you, dear friends, that I also reported that Polish side, on the very same day when Estonia began whining about MiG-31s, Polish leadership come up with their statements that two Russian fighter jets, unspecified ones, they did not said which kind of fighter jets, allegedly, according to Polish elites, fly by some offshore gas platform or something like that, right? But yet again, this is the Baltics, tremendously militarized area by NATO. Clearly, Baltics is so militarized that many officials here in Russia are saying that, unfortunately, there is a high risk that something might happen in the Baltics, and we might see actual direct clashes between the Russian side and the NATO countries. That's the level of militarization of the Baltics. And so you are telling me that none of your freaking radars, NATO countries, spot these planes and track them, and you have no factual evidences to demonstrate, just to talk? What the hell, man? And no one is, except Russia, by the way. Why no one? Why Western journalists are not asking? I mean, give us freaking evidences. Anyways, let's continue.
We have given Russia a pass in the past in such circumstances. But we have not heard any apologies, only lies. Together with the intensification of attacks on Ukraine, they seem to be an eloquent comment on, quote, moving from confrontation to dialogue, end quote, promised by Vladimir Putin in Alaska. These breaches of airspace are suspect because they are an escalation of hybrid war which Russia has waged against the West for years. Murders of politicians, journalists, human rights defenders and defectors, cyber attacks against hospitals and financial institutions, arsons, including in Poland, UK.
You see, allegations, by the way, allegations, no evidences. And talk is cheap, man. They just talk constantly. but evidences. I can, and anybody can say that this Sikorsky is a freaking alien, but he is becoming alien just because we say so? Give us evidences. But no, man, all they do is demonize Russia, try to constantly demonize Russia. That's their strategy, by the way. They talk shit, a lot of it, no evidences, right? You remember our stories, by the way, with Novichok. Whole Western freaking so-called media was going wild, and also Western so-called political class that, well, this weapons-grade chemical, some substance were used to kill this and that, and somehow everybody who allegedly was targeted by Russian secret services with Novichok survived. If this freaking Novichok is that deadly, and you are saying it, right? I have no freaking idea what Novichok is. I heard about Novichok first time from Western freaking media, so-called media. So if you are saying that this Novichok is this deadly that kills everyone who will, get close to it, then how come that nobody freaking died? You are saying that this one was targeted with Novichok, this other one, another one, another one, all Western assets, by the way, right? Western assets that were actively operating in Russia were those personalities that, according to Western propaganda, were targeted with Novichoks. And also, you remember Skripal in UK, former Soviet KGB, and I don't know if he was serving in Russian FSB too or something, but he was defector, right, in UK. And allegedly, that person was also targeted with Novichok, and he also survived. Everybody freaking survived from this weapons-grade chemical substance. Unbelievable, man. Yet again, and no one is asking questions. I mean, it's a legit question, isn't it, what I am talking about now? It's a legit question. How come that your Novichok did not freaking kill nobody? And you know what? What Western secret services did? They probably killed someone, some poor woman in UK, and then claimed that this woman find their bottle from Novichok or something in the garbage, and due to contact died. I don't believe in that even for a second, by the way. Target did not die, but some poor individual died because of it. No, man, this is just so just to talk, by the way, just allegations after allegations after allegations to demonize Russia as much as they can. When we ask, where is the evidences? No evidences, by the way, nothing.
And Lithuania, postal packages containing incendiary devices all over Europe, including Germany, attacks on Ukrainian embassies, in addition to standard espionage and disinformation. Excellencies, this Council has a responsibility to send a clear message that such provocations will not be tolerated. It must stand in solidarity with Estonia, Romania, Poland, and all nations whose sovereignty is threatened by systemic Russian aggression. To the representatives of Russia, I have this to say. We know you don't care for international law, and you are incapable of living in peace with your neighbors. Your insane nationalism contains a lust for domination that will not cease until you realize that the age of empires is over and that your empire will not be rebuilt. Every drone strike by the heroes of the armed forces of Ukraine, may God bless them, brings this day closer. Your 3-day special military...
You see, this criminal, Sikorsky, is prizing Ukrainian terrorists that are launching drones and killing Russian civilians. And I show you in the beginning of today's video, today's live stream, that short video that was filmed in Moscow region with a passenger plane from Emirate Airlines. A380 was forced to fly extremely low due to yet another terrorist attack of Western-backed regime, Zelensky's regime on Russia, on Moscow with the drones. And thanks to, I don't know, professionalism of the pilots, tragedy did not happen. But you see how close that plane was to that high-rise building, isn't it? Can you imagine level of casualties if plane actually hit the building? And this criminal, Sikorsky, is praising those terrorists that are launching these drones. And he is doing it openly.
Military operation can't even conquer Donbass for 10 years now.
And dear friends, yesterday, I also want to say, in Crimea, I reported this morning that a school was targeted in Crimea, by the way, in a resort area where there is no militaries whatsoever. There is no military installations, nothing, right? And according to latest reports that I see, 16 civilians were wounded and 3 civilians were killed with the drones. That's what Sikorsky is praising. Terrorists that launched that attack. I don't know. This is insane. This is just insane. These people have no shame, man. These are criminals that are at least formally in charge of NATO countries.
But the potential for criminal, catastrophic Russian mistakes is still there. By ordering mobilization in 1914, you precipitated the start of World War I, which bled Europe white.
Oh, now you're going to see attempt from Sikorsky to overwrite the history. He's blaming beginning of World War I and World War II. He's going to blame that on Russia, brother. Just listen to this psychopath, this freaking animal, man. Just listen to him. This disgrace of humanity.
Your Bolshevik revolution. By signing the Hitler-Stalin Pact, you helped launch World War II, the bloodiest in history. By Sovietizing...
What about Munich conference in 47, that was, isn't it? When UK and France basically green-lighted Germany to occupy Czechoslovakia. Why? That episode is not the beginning of the World War II. Did you ever hear from anybody in the West anything about that Munich conference, Munich agreement? Nothing, isn't it? And many people, vast majority of the Western public, probably have no freaking idea that London and France, Paris, by the way, green-lighted Germany, Nazi Germany, to occupy Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, right? And to take their land from there. But when it comes to Molotov-Ribbentrop agreement, that was reached between Moscow and Berlin. Well, that was an attempt of Moscow to somehow have little more time to prepare better, because at that point it was quite obvious, I guess, that after dealing with the European countries, Nazi German fascists will attack us, right? But, you know.
Central Europe, you caused the Cold War. Don't start another one. We are peaceful democracies who have studiously avoided actively joining your attempt to...
And he says we are peaceful democracies, man. According to Lancet magazine, I believe, due to these peaceful democracies, these Western peaceful democracies, due to their actions, in last three to 5 decades, more than 30 million people were killed. More than 30 million people were killed, if I remember correctly, and more than 300 million displaced. And this criminal is saying that, well, we are peaceful democracies. Really? Tell this to Iraqis. Tell this to Afghanistan people. Tell this to people in Somalia. Tell this to Libyans that been sold on an open market as slaves after what the Western world did to Libya. And I can continue and continue and continue. Tell this to whole freaking world that you robbed for the last 300 to 500 years, almost all freaking world. And this shameless criminal is there to say that we are peaceful democracies about Western countries, or he means NATO, right? NATO member states. Unbelievable, man. That's with whom we are dealing. That's with whom we are dealing, man.
Reconquer Ukraine. But we will not be intimidated. I have only one request to the Russian government. If another missile or aircraft enters our space without permission, deliberately or by mistake, and gets shot down and the wreckage falls on NATO territory, please don't come here to whine about it. You have been warned.
You see, this is threat. This is threat, by the way. This is clear threat that they might conduct an intentional attack on Russian military asset, right? That might be next false flag operation. In UN, representative of NATO is openly threatening Russia with their military action. And this is dangerous. This is dangerous, by the way. This is dangerous because, as I said, we have too many indicators to believe that globalist and globalist control regimes in the West, out of their desperation that they are losing this proxy war that they launched against Russia, out of desperation, they will go ahead with their unprecedented scale of escalation. And soon. And we are very close to that point, I'm afraid. I don't know if European societies will wake up and realize how dangerous the situation is. Good. If not, then, well, I'm afraid Moscow will have no option but to retaliate. And the Russian president was very clear on that during today's statements, for example, that if it comes to it, we are ready to retaliate, and not with words, but with their military and their technical means, right? So don't provoke. But they're gonna provoke. They're gonna provoke, by the way, I'm afraid. And this speech about how peaceful and how democratic and how much angels they are, these NATO countries. This is coming from you know whom? Criminal who thanked US actually for terrorist attack on Nord Stream pipelines. I mean, you cannot make up these stories, man. You just cannot make up these stories. This is just too insane. All this crap is coming from this guy, Radek Sikorski, who thanked US for Nord Stream pipeline terrorist attacks. It is what it is, man. That's the West. That's the state of the modern Western world. I don't know, man. I rest my case. You know, this is just too freaking crazy. Anyways, dear friends. You know what? Let me continue with some more news, and I can see live stream. You know, if I go through all of the news, live stream gonna be too long. So I give you some more news, and then let's have a little chat, and the rest of the news I will save for tomorrow's update, because I mean, news are important. TASS News Agency is reporting, dear friends, that US will protect Poland and the Baltics in case of escalation in relations with Russia. I mentioned this report earlier today in the first update, and this is also tremendously dangerous, isn't it? I don't know why, but US President Donald Trump, his team, current administration in US is allowing globalist and globalist control regimes in Europe to not just keep US in this proxy war against Russia, but to put deeper into a trap that they have created for the US, because this is trap. This is trap, isn't it? When Trump is saying that, well, we're gonna protect Poland and Baltics and all the others, he is inviting basically globalists to come up with more and more false flag operations, isn't it? He has no idea, Trump, if Trump learned something about stuff. And he was asked, by the way, about MiG-31s on several occasions, and he said, I mean, he's not, he don't know, right? He clearly indicated that, I mean, he has no freaking idea what happened. So if you don't know what had happened, then why on earth you are saying that you're gonna do something about it? Or you're gonna go ahead and protect this or that, when there is a high probability that all these stories are false flag operations done specifically, including for reasons that I already explained, to keep US in this proxy war against Russia and potentially go ahead with the next phase of escalation in which US will be leading country again against Russia. I don't know. This is just too crazy, man. This is just too crazy. You know, who runs the show in US, man? Why Trump is inviting more false flag operations from the globalists? I have no freaking idea, but that's what he is doing. RIA Novosti is also reporting that same time that Trump is saying that we're gonna protect Baltics and the Baltic Chihuahuas, and we're gonna protect Poland and all the others, and by doing so inviting more false flag operations from globalists. Same time, interesting report is being published on Financial Times, according to which allegedly US considers the Baltics too aggressive towards Russia, which is interesting, isn't it? So on one hand, US administration, at least some people there, understand that these Baltic Chihuahuas are too crazy, right? And on the other hand, Trump is saying that, we will protect them. Are you crazy? Who are you going to protect? They're going to provoke confrontation and then hope that, you and Russia are going to end up in a freaking war. That's what you want? You're going to rest fate of the world on these rabid freaking Chihuahuas from Baltics? Are you insane? What is wrong with Trump, man? I don't know, but let me give you some details. There is some tensions between the United States and the Baltic states over their attitudes towards Russia, said Financial Times columnist Gideon Rahman. In Washington, and this is quote, in Washington, I've heard complaints about the Estonianization of European foreign policy. Some in the Trump administration consider the Balts dangerously aggressive in their attitude towards Putin. The columnist wrote, it's not about Putin, by the way. It's about Russia. It's about this struggle, this war, basically, that globalists are waging against Russia and waging against humanity in their pursuit of domination over the planet. That's what this is about, not about Putin. And no matter how hard they're going to try to, demonize Putin and Russia, the whole world knows what is going on. Maybe not in the West, okay, but West is just a tiny part, isn't it? The rest of the world knows perfectly well what is going on. For example, this article continues, according to him, at the recent high-level meeting at the Pentagon, Baltic officials were accused of ideologically motivated opposition to Russia. Meanwhile, these countries themselves viewed Trump with suspicion. The author recalls seeing a poster in Estonian Foreign Ministry building displaying the results of their February UN General Assembly vote on an anti-Russian resolution on Ukraine. The US voted against it. Their message seemed clear. Don't assume America under Trump is on our side, he added. Okay, I mean, this is interesting. Also, last week, Politico reported that the head of European diplomacy and the former Estonian Prime Minister Kaja Kallas is causing disconnect among the European leaders due to her overly categorical rhetoric towards Russia and her weak position on the events in the Gaza Strip. So yes, man, these rabid Baltic Chihuahuas, man. I mean, they might well provoke, actually, or they might well be used by globalists to provoke even full-scale clash between NATO and Russia, if we are not careful, and if US leadership is not careful. I mean, Russia can deal with Europe one-on-one. Europe is like, I don't know, a couple of dozen of countries, right? But we can deal with Europe. We can put European so-called elites to their places. Russia did this not just once and not just twice. There is history of that, right? But if US is also engaged in this war against us full time, then that's the end of everything, because such a confrontation will quickly transform into a full-scale nuclear war. And none of us want this to happen, isn't it? None of us want this to happen. So some interesting stuff there. Some interesting stuff. Seems like at least some people in US, in Washington, and also in Europe, among elites there, are realizing that these Baltic chihuahuas are just too freaking crazy. Which is true, by the way. I mean, don't have to be like rocket scientists to understand this, but a few more news, dear friends, and not surprisingly, Peskov, press spokesman of the Russian president, did state that Europe is doing everything possible to continue the Ukrainian conflict. Of course they do. Globalists and globalist control regimes in Europe are all about continuation of this proxy war against Russia, because until they have no reverse gear, even if they are realizing little by little that they have lost, they just have no reverse gear, and will not stop until they are forced to, right? And I'm afraid those very globalists will actually create the situation in which Moscow will have no other option but to put them in their places with their very serious steps. Right. RT is also reporting that Kremlin is labeling UK as a key supporter of Ukraine conflict, which is also correct. I said many times before that British aristocracy, British royal family, they are, and also, of course, European in general aristocracy and including royal families, are the main driving force behind the globalism, right? But leading force there is British aristocracy. So this statement is absolutely correct. Kremlin is correct. UK is a key supporter of Ukraine conflict. The Kremlin has branded Britain a leading force among nations seeking to prolong the Ukraine conflict and obstruct the peaceful settlement brokered by the US. The comments by spokesman Dmitry Peskov came after US President Donald Trump's visit to London last week, during which British Prime Minister Keir Starmer called for more pressure on Russia. And we have quotes here. The United Kingdom is one of the leaders of this pro-war camp, Peskov said in a TV interview on Sunday, apparently referring to a so-called coalition of the willing, which includes France, Canada, Poland, and other nations supplying Kyiv with arms, funds, and their diplomatic cover. And yet again, at this point, I would not assume that US is brokering any peace settlement. I only hear statements, but when it comes to actual policies of the Washington, what I see is a recent decision of the Washington to transfer another military aid package to Kyiv regime worth $500 million. Big military aid package, right? And also, I recall, for example, reports from like 2 weeks ago, approximately, that the US also authorized transfer of thousands, more than 3,000 cruise missiles to Kyiv regime, formally to a Kyiv regime. So that's what I see. That's actual policies, right? Trump might talk every day, all day, how much he wants peace, but let's look at his policies, and everything will become much more clear. So I would not use these exact words as Peskov does, because I don't believe US is a mediator. US cannot be mediator in a war which was provoked with active participation of the US, right? And also Trump's administration is not trying to broker anything at this point. Definitely not the peace. Give me some actual facts about it, like proofs. Where is the proofs? Just the statements? No, man, talk is cheap, right? But when it comes to UK, yes, Kremlin is 100% on point there. Of course, globalists and the main force among globalists are British aristocracy, and their puppets, including British government, of course, are leading force when it comes to further prolongation of this proxy war. And let me give you a short clip of former Prime Minister of UK, dear friends, Boris Johnson, who unfortunately still has some influence, seems like, or being used by globalists for whatever reasons, and he already played a tremendously bad role, isn't it, in all this story, and continues to do so, because look what he's saying. He's basically openly calling for NATO troops to be deployed into Kyiv-controlled territory. He is calling for a war, basically, direct war. I mean, at one point in this video, he's saying that, well, these NATO troops gonna stay, away from a line of contact and that kind of nonsense. But, and by saying so, he's of course trying to play on emotions of the British public, first of all, lying to them that, well, it's okay to stay away from a line of contact, as if Moscow was not clear enough that any foreign troops and any troops from NATO, especially on Kyiv-controlled territory, will be designated as combatants and their action will be taken. Boris Johnson knows this stuff, right? But as I said, globalists are desperate, and you can clearly see this desperation in their actions and statements of globalist puppets, including Boris Johnson, that is calling for intensification of the wars for this next phase of escalation against Russia. Let's listen.
So you need all the economic thing, the package of the sanctions, the unfreezing of the assets, etc., etc. You need more military help, Taurus missiles, more permissions, give Ukrainians more help, more money for the drones. But then you need something that's going to flip a switch in the Kremlin's brain and make them realize that fundamentally, strategically, this is over. Ukraine is an independent country, and although they may be impossible, it may be impossible to get Putin out of the bits he currently occupies, the cost of trying to get the rest is going to be too great, and it's pointless because the West has asserted its commitment, and the way for the West to assert its commitment would be to say, well, the coalition of the willing will start to arrive, and they won't. Of course, they're not going to fight the war. The Ukrainians are much better than Western Europeans at fighting the war. They're not going to go into harm's way. They're going to They're going to do logistics. They're going to do training. They're going to do whatever to backfilling is useful. But fundamentally, they're going to be there to make the point that Ukraine decides what military forces come to Ukraine.
You see, dear friends, Johnson is correct on one point there. Ukrainian fighters or Russian fighters, brainwashed ones that think they are Ukrainians now, they are clearly part of a Russian world, even if brainwashed, right? So they know how to fight because Russian people know how to fight and have proved that on numerous occasions, right? So on that point, Johnson definitely is correct. Russian people know how to fight, and Russians on Kyiv-controlled territory that have been brainwashed or forcefully sent to the battlefield definitely are much more capable and much better fighters than Western Europe, for example, can come up with. No offense, by the way, but that's how I think, and that's what it is really. I don't think any European army would be, or any European society would be capable of withstanding the pressure that society on kill control territory did manage to withstand, right? Under, while being forced, of course, while being brainwashed by the West, of course, there are a number of nuances that are important, of course, but nevertheless, I don't think either French society were capable to withstand this, or British society, or German society, by the way. I don't think so. So on that point, yes, he is correct. People on kill control territory are much better fighters than NATO can come up with, but nevertheless, he's also saying that, you know what, let's send troops from coalition of willing, let's make a point, as if it's nothing, right? As if it's nothing. If Moscow was not clear enough that deployment of NATO troops, or under whatever pretext, is unacceptable, and they will be designated as a combatant and treated accordingly. This criminal is clearly calling for next phase of escalation. That's what it is. That's what it is, man. Am I correct on that? Unbelievable. And I'm afraid they're going to go ahead, man. Once they will launch, they have planned something big, and once they will launch this assault on Russia, simultaneously they might try to, not just try, but probably they will begin deploying their troops on the kill control territory. Something big is going to happen, and Russia will have no option but to deal with the situation. And Russia will deal with the situation and will put Western so-called elites in their places. It's not going to be pretty, though. It's not going to be pretty, because war is never pretty, but we will do what is necessary. And enough warnings were issued by Moscow. Enough warnings, right? I would love to see Western societies waking up, by the way. I would love to see that, but unfortunately, I don't think our Western societies, majority at least, are capable of waking up. I don't know. And dear friends, just now there was a donation through Boosty. Already 3 super chats from Rumble and 1 donation through Boosty, and I will highlight these super chats and donations after news segment, dear friends. Was there on PayPal? Oh, there was a donation on the PayPal too, dear friends. So I will highlight that on in the question time after a news segment. Let me now continue with the news segment itself. As I said, a lot of news, dear friends, a lot of news, and important ones. And probably you would agree with me. And on the topic of globalists escalating with Russia and preparing ground for potential next phase of escalation, is not just a military escalation, but globalist puppets in Europe still are trying to escalate with Russia economically, which is by now, even if they are complete morons, by the way, these so-called elites in Europe, by now they should already realize that they are in no position to escalate with Russia, with Russia economically. I mean, 18 packages have been already of sanctions already been imposed on Russia. Practically everything is sanctioned, right? And they are still threatening. This is, I don't know, beyond my understanding, by the way. I don't know what the hell is wrong with these people that are formally in charge there in Europe. But that's the report that we have, for example, that EU to adopt a new massive package of sanctions against Russia. This is 19th package of sanctions, I guess. The first to be coordinated with the United States since Trump returned to office, announced by French Foreign Minister Barrot. And yet again, this statement is coming after 18 previous attempts failed, right, to crack Russian economy. So I don't know. These people are insane. I mean, truly, these people are insane, by the way. Something is big time wrong with them, isn't it? And also escalation. That's all it is when it comes to Western world, isn't it? We have, for example, this statement, yet another statement from Finnish president, who is tremendously active, by the way. He is a Finnish president. Like, with all due respect to Finland and Finnish people, that are tremendously nice people, by the way. All I heard about Finns are positive. I mean, really, really nice people. I have never been there, but people that opinion of whom I respect were very clear that they have been in Finland and enjoy their time, they enjoy conversation with the Finnish people. Wonderful people, man. But what the hell is wrong with their elites? What is wrong with their elites? And they're also, I mean, yet again, with all due respect, but Finland is just a tiny, tiny part in the north, right? And I don't think Finnish president should be this active on a geopolitical scale as he is, right? This is wrong, by the way, and I questioned this situation before, and I will question now too. Why Stubb, Finnish president, is constantly in the headlines with some strong statements, anti-Russian statements? Maybe because Finland is next to be sacrificed or something. Maybe globalists already have made decision to sacrifice Finland too, together with the Baltic Chihuahuas. Is that is a reason why Stubb is escalating with Russia this crazy and talks crap constantly? I don't know, man. I mean, anything is possible, but I mean, if Stubb was a president of, I don't know, man, UK or Prime Minister of UK, okay, I will say, I mean, UK is, still, UK is experiencing constantly these phantom pains, isn't it, from past glory, and the British aristocracy cannot live with the fact that they are no longer dominant force in this world. But nevertheless, UK is a nuclear power, right? And okay, when Keir Starmer talks about some geopolitics, one may say, okay, I mean, just let him talk. France, okay, by the way, Fifth Republic is also a nuclear power, and permanent member of the Security Council, definitely plays some role in geopolitics, maybe tiny, but still. But Finland, I mean, for God's sake, man, Finnish president? What the hell, man? This is not correct. Something is wrong there, and that's why I'm asking question. What in the plans of the globalists? Are they planning to sacrifice Finland too, together with the Baltic Chihuahuas? And I think Finnish people should ask this question: why their leadership is constantly barking at Russia and provoking Russia? Why? In Europe, there are much more powerful countries, leadership of which is much more quieter. I mean, Italy is also, by the way, I mean, former empire, right? And much more powerful country, if we are real here, than Finland. But I did not see Meloni, Prime Minister of Italy, running around and making some crazy statements day in, day out. I mean, she does time to time, but not every day, for God's sake, right? Because I guess she knows her place. I don't know. Finnish people should think about this, man. But, well, Stubb, president of Finland, is stating that EU to be ready to fight Russia. I mean, direct talk there. I mean, Europe should ready to get engaged in a war with Russia. And what do you think how that war gonna end for Europe, man? I mean, different, share your opinion. I mean, if it really comes to the war, like full-scale war between Europe and Russia, what do you think how that war gonna end? I mean, realistically speaking, if US is out, if US is in, then that is end of everything, right? We all die in that case. It's gonna get full-scale nuclear very fast, and that's gonna be it. But Europe on its own versus Russia, how that war gonna end? What do you think? even with conventional weapons, by the way, if nukes are not used. We will eat European armies alive. Literally. Russian army will decimate European armies in no time. Because, as I said, Boris Johnson is crazy, of course, and usually he talks crap, but sometimes he's on point. And it was exactly that time when he said that, well, people on Kiev-controlled territory are better fighters than European countries can come up with, which is true, by the way. With all due respect, dear friends, but let's be real here, isn't it? Western societies become just too comfortable. They had a greater, peaceful, cool life, right? For decades and decades and decades, mainly due to crimes that was committed by European elites elsewhere, right? While they were robbing dozens and dozens of nations, right? That's the basement of European success story that is coming to its end, right? But nevertheless, for decades and decades, after Second World War, by the way, Europe had a relatively peaceful life, especially Western Europe, become very rich, very, very faster again, and they're quite comfortable. And you think Western societies are really ready for a war? Especially when people will have no freaking idea what for they are fighting? I don't think so. I don't think French people are that keen to fight Russians, man. I really don't. And deep down in the heart, I don't want to believe that French people hate Russians. I just don't want to believe in that. They may be, indoctrinated some Russophobia, but I just don't want to believe that French people or people in Germany or elsewhere actually hate all of us for no reason, right? Just because they've been told about it on TV. Hopefully this is not the case. But yet again, we had a hard life, right? People in former Soviet Union, my generation and the generation after me, we went through 90s, right? We lived in Soviet Union and we went through 90s. And by the way, 90s was, hell on earth for us, for many of us. And we survived, so we are used to hardships, right? We don't have a heart attack if there is no electricity and freaking conditioner is not working, as it is case in many Western countries, by the way. People literally have a heart attack or panic attack when electricity goes off. And you're going to tell me that those people are capable of fighting us? Really? No, man, not happening. With all the respect, but not happening. So, yes, Alexander Stubb, whose father and grandfather, I believe, was fighting shoulder to shoulder with the Nazi Germany. He is openly saying that EU should get ready to fight Russia. Okay, man, ask people in Europe, are they that keen to fight with Russia? I don't think so. I really don't. And we don't want to fight nobody, actually. We don't want to fight either here in Russia. Vast majority of us, we want to just be left alone, man, so that we will pursue happiness and live our peaceful lives, as happy as we can be, and that's it. We don't want to fight nobody, man. We will if we have to, but we just don't want, or we hate fighting, actually. We can fight, but we hate it. Because it's a horrible stuff, man. RT, meanwhile, is reporting that, German army expects 1,000 wounded per day in case of a conflict with Russia. Yet again, Europe is going crazy, man. German armed forces would expect to suffer 1,000 wounded soldiers a day in the event of a conflict with Russia, according to their head of Bundeswehr's medical service. Moscow has repeatedly denied any plans to attack NATO nations, calling such allegations nonsense. Realistically, we are talking about a figure of around 1,000 wounded troops per day. General Ralph Hoffmann told Reuters on Monday when asked about the Bundeswehr's potential casualty rate. The military is looking at the hospital trains and their buses as it considers its potential needs. He added the Bundeswehr would also need German hospitals to allocate some 15,000 beds for its soldiers would be mostly treated in civilian medical facilities after evacuation, according to Hoffmann. Berlin has repeatedly spoken about possibility of direct military operation between NATO and Russia since the escalation of the Ukraine conflict in 2022. Germany's Chief of Defense Staff, General Carsten Brauer, had previously stated that nation must be ready to confront Moscow by 2029. Why, man? Why Germans? Why you want to fight with us, man? Why? I mean, German elites. I don't want to believe that ordinary German people actually want to war with us, man. Even if many of them being brainwashed in Russophobia. I mean, one thing is to be brainwashed, another is to actually want to end up in a war, right? Very different stuff. And I don't want to believe that Germans or French or British people, by the way, or Spaniards actually want, or Dutch people, for God's sake. I mean, I don't think they actually want war with us, right? And so, I mean, please, people, wake up, man. You see what your elites are doing. They are pushing for a war that none of us wants, ordinary people. But, you know, we from Russians from here cannot influence your elites. It's your job to influence your freaking elites, right? I would say to people, societies in Europe, if they would listen, but this is crazy, man. And also on the topic of competency of the German military leadership, by the way, this personality, Bundeswehr's military chief, this Sergeant General Ralph Hoffmann is clearly incompetent, by the way, because if he knew what high-intensity battle is, what high-intensity conflict is, if he knew anything about casualty rates on the line of contact in the zone of special military operation, he would never ever say that Germany expects 1,000 casualties. You'll be lucky if you have 1,000 casualties a day. You'll be just tremendously lucky that day. Whole German army will last on the battlefield, in the zone of special military operation for, I don't know, months. That's it, man. And literally 1 month, and there is no German army no more. That's it. So what this General Ralph Hoffmann is talking about, man? It's insane. But yet again, I mean, let's hope we will not see no actual war between Europe and Russia. But this is very worrisome developments, isn't it? All this stuff. And not surprisingly, by the way, because this anti-Russian propaganda in Europe, including in Germany, is out of control. Absolutely. Well, not surprisingly, people in Germany are also beginning to panic, I guess, and their demand for private bunkers, by the way, has surged by 50%. It's a tragic, isn't it? It's a tragic comedy, really. People are digging freaking bunkers, by the way, to survive the war that's not gonna come, man. Hopefully, right? So, fearing Russia, Germans rushed to build the bunkers. According to Bild, by the way, this information is coming from Bild, German newspaper, isn't it? So demand for private bunkers in Germany has surged by 50%. The recent incident in Poland reportedly triggered a new wave of alarm, and well, I don't know what to even say, man. I feel sorry for all the people that been traumatized by their own elites in Europe and all over the collective West in general, with all this Russia hate and all this psychological terror that they are organizing on their own people. That if not today, tomorrow, war gonna be gone and that kind of stuff. I mean, some people are just too emotional, you know, and they might actually suffer seriously, you know, due to constant fear that, you know, Russians gonna attack now and Russians gonna attack tomorrow and day after tomorrow. And some people might actually have a freaking heart attack, man, and die. And some people may go complete crazy also and spend their last penny on some freaking bunkers that they will never need. Only if zombie apocalypse will happen, maybe in that case, yes, they will use those bunkers. But Russians are not coming, man. No thanks. We are good, you know. If not provoke, no way, by the way, Russian leadership or Russian people will ever think attacking anybody. And by this time, everyone should understand that Russia is reacting. Russia is reacting on the provocations. Russia is reacting on the aggression. That's a historical pattern, by the way. It's not just now or yesterday or a year ago or 10 years ago. That's a historical pattern, right? Russia is reacting on the aggression. That's how it is, man. And meanwhile, societies in Europe that are, I mean, our social fabric that is stretched beyond limit is breaking, by the way, in certain points. And well, in Hague, who would thought that in Hague there would be some violent protests, anti-immigration rallies, and so on. But it was today, right? And media reported that at least 30 people were arrested, 2 police officers were injured, and on your screen right now you can see crowd is attacking police car there. Thankfully no one was killed, but people is losing cool, man, all over the Europe, isn't it? People are just too stressed, and anything, literally anything, can trigger really bigger disturbances, you know. And while this is happening, elites, so-called elites in Europe, are busy promoting war with Russia and their Russia's demonization of Russia and everything Russian. Insane, man. Insane. And dear friends, I think I will end a new segment on that, because and look, I mean, on your screen you can see on top of the screen you can see how many news I still have left, by the way. But if I continue, this live stream will last for another 1 hour or more. So therefore I will end the news segment now. Hopefully you did like the news segment, and if so, please click that like button, dear friends. That might help her to reach wider audience. And so yes, now there was also super chat on Rumble. Let me copy this screenshot, and I will join community chat for a little while, dear friends. Let's have an exchange of opinions on any topic. As always, I will, while scrolling through chat, I will be focused on capital Q to react on questions that, or the comments that are directed to me. And but there was another super chat, dear friends, from Banzo Binzer, I can see, and also another one from Sans. I will highlight every single super chat, dear friends, right now. Before I start, let me highlight that there was a donation on PayPal from Nathan. Thank you very much, Nathan, for $20 donation through PayPal. Thank you very much. And the comment from Nathan is, thanks, Levan, always very informative and entertaining. Glad to hear these words, Nathan. Thank you very much for your support and attention and the kind words. Thank you. And dear friends, let me highlight some super chat that was on the Rumble for now. So let's start with this one. Oh, come on. So thank you very much, Sans, for $5 super chatter. And comment from Sans is, I've supported the Russian restrictive fighter, but it's annoying how the collective West is not able to see that this is a Russian mercy and caring for humanity. It's time for no mercy. Enough is enough. And well, I understand very well, Sans, what you are talking about. And I said on several occasions during my live streams, in my updates, that even though I personally might be supporter of a more harsher line to be taken by Russian leadership, same time I do understand perfectly well that maybe it's due to this restrained policies of the Russian leadership that we did not end up in full-scale war between NATO and Russia, and we did not witness extinction level event. So maybe we are alive thanks to Russian leadership, man. Actually, if they acted any differently, at least until now, with some harsh measures or retaliatory strikes and stuff, who knows? Maybe we would not be alive. We would not be around by now. So I can understand perfectly well what you are talking about, Sans. But same time, I guess Russian president also kind of had enough, and today he made it very clear that if provoked, basically, if provoked, Russia will use military and technical means to deal with the hostile. Right, so this should be last warning, and I don't know, man. I don't really have a hope that the globalists will listen, globalists, neocons, and all the others that are pulling the strings in the West. But I would, it would be great if they will listen, man, because yet again, Russian president don't say stuff like that randomly, So it is what it is. Thank you very much, Sans, for your comment. Yes, I know. I will go through every super chat. So there is another super chatter from Blorp. Thank you very much, Blorp, for your super chat and $5 donation. Have a coffee, Levan. Thank you for your work. Thank you very much, Blorp, for your support and attention. Thank you. Also, dear friends, there was a super chat from Sans also. Another one. Yet again, thank you, Sans, for your second super chatter and $2 donation. And the comment is, I think citizens of the Western countries are waking up. No one is ready to go to war. People want to live normal life. We people of European countries don't hate Russians. Our elite has to go. Well, thank you for your words, Sander. sons. That's what my hope is, and I spoke about it, isn't it? I really hope, despite all the anti-Russian propaganda and stuff, I hope for people in Europe, in their hearts, not really hating us because we done nothing wrong to them. I mean, we really don't. I mean, what I have done bad to anybody in Europe, man? I mean, you tell me, or anyone from my family, or anyone from my neighbors, or from residents of Moscow or Russia, by the way. What we done to harm anybody in Europe? Nothing, right? Nothing. We don't want no escalation. We don't want no war. If we are forced to, fight, we will. That's what we do, right? But we don't want it. We hate fight. We know how to do it, but we hate this, right? So hopefully, this awakening will continue, will happen finally in Europe, and the European societies will reclaim their own countries and their say in their own destiny, right? And in that case, I see no reason why European countries and Russia cannot cooperate, man. If European countries are led by local patriots of their societies, and then we can find common ground with them because we are patriots of our country, right? Our policies based on best interests of Russia, their policies should be based on the best interests of their countries, right? And in that case, we will find the common ground because there is in no interests of any of our countries these tensions and wars, isn't it? It does not benefit nobody, none of us. Only freaking these so-called elites, right? It's their geopolitical game, right? Bloody geopolitical game, not ours. So thank you very much, Sans, for sharing the opinion. Thank you, and many thanks for donation, super chat. Let me also highlight, dear friends, there was another super chat. Banzo Beans, our moderator. John, thank you very much for your super chat. I know there was another super chat too. I will highlight that in a minute. Thank you very much, John. And comment from John is, my main reason for hope among Western leaders were mongering idiocy. We Western people don't want to get our hands dirty. We like convenience and comforts. And I can understand you are coming from. And by the way, don't think we are any different, really. We might more used to some hardships and harsh times. This is also true, but nevertheless, I mean, you're gonna struggle to find that many people here in Russia that are, will say, you know what, let's go fight here and there. No, we just don't, right? So I mean, Sans also said that people are waking up in Europe, and hopefully that's what is going to happen. And maybe European societies will stop this madness, man, because we cannot. I mean, we from here cannot influence much, right? But European societies can, and hopefully, they will stop this craziness of their own elites. Thank you, John, for sharing opinion. Also, dear friends, let me share another also from John. Thank you very much again, John. Banzo Beans, our moderator, dear friends, on YouTube and Rumble. Thank you for your super chat and $5 donation. I am pissed off today about how fucked up everything is, especially in my own society in Western Europe, especially their intellectual and the leadership class. Here is their $5 as an act of micro defiance. Thank you very much, John. And yet again, I mean, you are living in Europe, isn't it? Sans, you, many other members of our community are from Europe, and if you observing awakening in Europe, if people actually waking up, and it is true in case of Germany, isn't it? Otherwise, AfD would not be that popular. It's a number one party, by the way, right now. There is awakening in some other countries too, and maybe if globalists and globalist institutions would not manage to manipulate with the societies again, then maybe you would free your countries, you know. And in that case, we will just live in peace, man. I just have no freaking idea why should not we can just live normally, like be good neighbors and respect each other and don't freaking fight. I mean, what the hell, man? And we did not send our missiles and our military infrastructure towards anybody, isn't it? It's NATO, it's the Western countries that are pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and eventually, well, we are where we are. Although there was a promise initially, isn't it, that after German reunification, NATO would not move feet eastwards, but well, they did move, isn't it? And eventually they wanted to grab Ukraine and Georgia and put their military bases there, and well, you know. So thank you very much, John, for sharing opinion and for your support and for your help. Once again, John is our moderator, dear friends, and helps a lot with feedback and with recommendations, and you know. So thank you very much, John. And there was also, dear friends, another super chat. Or not.
Also, same with Serbs and
I read it. Also, I have not seen it then. Okay. Sorry, dear friends. Let me also highlight, dear friends, another and another. Hopefully I did not mess up. It's my wife is monitoring Rumble during the streams, and she makes screenshots of the super chat and sends me those screenshots. I cannot simultaneously, do the program and the monitor Rumble chat or YouTube chat for that matter, only after new segment ends. So, dear friends, let me also highlight these comments from Sand. It's the same with the Serbs and Croatians. They are fighters. They share their exact origin, brothers like to fight. Sadly, and yes, I agree with you, Sans. I agree with you. Only difference, as far as I can tell, by the way, between Serbs and Croats, there might be some dialectical elements, obviously, but as it is case in every country, right? In Georgia, in tiny Georgia, by the way, you go in different regions and there is different ways of saying stuff, right? And pronunciation is changing. And in Samegrelo and there are Svaneti, for example, in Georgia, I couldn't understand what they're talking about, maybe a couple of words, right, that I have heard before. But even though it's a Georgian language, it's a part of Georgian language families, Swan language and in Megralia, Samegrelo, it's different, right? It's still Georgian though, and I cannot freaking understand what they say. And I speak the Georgian is my first language, by the way, right? So yes, there might be some dialectical, some nuances, and the religion. Serbs are mainly Orthodox Christians. Croats are mainly Catholic Christians. That's it. Brothers. And brothers, unfortunately, when they fight bad, man. They fight bad, and that's why civil wars are most bloody, and all wars are bloody and tragic, obviously, but civil wars are, standing like especially bloody and painful and harsh, right? It's always the case everywhere, because brothers, I mean, I don't know why it's happening, but brotherly nations, they are just too, So I understand absolutely what you are talking about. Thank you very much, San, sir, for your comment, and also a $2 donation. And there was from Sans another comment, dear friends. Let me also highlight this. Did I read it? I read all the super chats. Okay. And right now there was a super chat from Scooby. Let me also highlight this super chat, dear friends. And Boosty, of course. Boosty, by the way. Let me highlight her from Scooby. Just a sec. Scooby, thank you very much for your super chat and $5 donation. Why are Russians still thinking they can find the common ground with the West? Grass is greener in the East. I don't know. Maybe because we just don't want this fight, man. We just, as I said many times before, we can fight if we have to, but we just hate this, right? It's not nice, isn't it, to be engaged in a fight? It's never nice. And there maybe this stuff is in psychology, in society here in former Soviet Union, that we just want to live peaceful lives, man. We and maybe that's why there is hope also inside their mindset of ours, right? Including political leadership, that maybe we can talk this shit out, right? And sorry for my French, but maybe we can talk this out and de-escalate somehow before we further escalate, and this hope is strong, man, because yet again we don't want no wars, man, believe it or not. And if Russian leadership, dear friends, did not demonstrate this until now, then I don't know what would. if Russian leadership demonstrated anything since this escalation, is that, I mean, they're trying hard, by the way, from the beginning, even before special military operation began. Many people forget that Russian president offered their Western elites to talk, right? Round table, basically, to talk and work out new security architecture in which Russian security concerns would be also taken in account. And the Russian initiative was ignored. I mean, Russian leadership did try everything, by the way, they could to avoid this escalation. And still until now, Putin and others were, if anything, they were exercising restraint, right? But everything that has its beginning has its end also. And today's statement of Russian president that if it comes to it, we will use military and some other means, then that clearly means that patience is it's not just patience. It's not about patience or emotions, by the way. It's about situation on the ground. Russian president would not say this if he's not informed that some very dangerous stuff is being prepared by the West. He would not use this stronger warning otherwise. He knows something bad is being prepared by the West. I'm calling it her next phase of escalation. You might call it something else, but clearly West is moving towards further escalation, and I guess Russian president is saying, you know what, I've been patient enough. We exercise restraint as much as it was possible, but if you go ahead with the further provocations, then, well, we will take action, right? But I can understand your opinion very well, by the way. Why are Russians still thinking they can find common ground with the West? I have no freaking idea. Maybe this is that hope that sits deep in, right? That maybe there is a chance to avoid, right, further escalation, because we are talking about lives of people, right? We are talking about lives, actual lives. So maybe that is the reason. But yet again, I do understand perfectly well that you cannot trust Western elites, man. They just cannot be trusted. We just cannot find common ground with them, because no matter how hard we try, they will lie to us. They were using diplomacy as a tool for deception, and they will do it again. They're not gonna change, man, until Western societies will reclaim their own countries and make changes in their elites. I don't think anybody would be able to trust Western elites, right? Even Western societies will struggle to trust their own elites because they lie. They just lie constantly. Thank you very much, Scooby, for your donation, super chat, and their question. And there was also, dear friends, on a Boosty. There was donation on a Boosty, dear friends, during this stream. Let me share with you. Let me highlight donation on the Boosty. There was donation from Malina, 805 rubles, which is $10, right? Thank you very much, Malina, for $10 donation. And there is no comment. No, there is no comment to highlight. Thank you very much, Malina, for your support. And there was also a super chat right now from Sans. Let me, dear friends, highlight this super chat from Sans. Thank you very much, Sans, again for your support, for your super chat and $5 donation. I've been listening for a few years now. Russians are coming, be aware. I am telling my friends to check all closets and look under their beds before they go to bed. Thank you very much, Sans, for your comment. I mean, it's yet again. I mean, people that are like you are actually watching alternative media and know better. You know, you take all these crazy statements from Western elites with their irony, and you just ignore it, right? But unfortunately, some people actually are taking seriously everything they hear from TV or from the politicians, and they're terrified. They are terrified, and the Bild reported, I just highlighted, isn't it, a couple of minutes ago, that orders for bunkers in Germany increased 50%. So I mean, those people were freaking terrified. Otherwise, why would they build bunkers? They would use whatever assets they have for some better, in some better ways, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know. People should I don't know, should come to Russia, for God's sake, at least once, and talk to us. They will realize that we are not about wars, man. Stuff. It's all freaking Western propaganda. Propaganda of the Western elites that Russians are coming. Russians are coming. It's raining. It's Russia's fault. It's snow. Russia's fault. This is Russia's fault. Everything is Russia's fault. And I mean, this is just insane, man. You cannot explain all this nonsense rationally. All Western elites do is push as much lies as they can in a hope that something will stick, right? And unfortunately, they are terrifying societies, and without any rejections, any large-scale rejections from or opposition from the public, are able to allocate hundreds of billions of euros of taxpayers' money any way they want, right? And they clearly are not willing to stop. Thank you very much, Sans, once again for your comments and donations and super chats. Thank you. And there was also from Scooby super chat. Let me highlight, dear friends. Thank you very much, Scooby, once again for your super chat and $5 donation. Russia, and comment from Scooby is, Russia wasted so much time trusting them already. Does not seem rational or in self-interest to continue to trust them. Yet again, I agree with you. I agree with you absolutely. I mean, we wasted the time, and Russian president himself says, isn't it, publicly during one of the interviews with Zarubin, if I remember correctly, that Western elites just simply lie with the Minsk 1, Minsk 2 agreements and many other agreements. And I think, yet again, I think Russian president is quite sure himself that Western elites, no matter what, no matter how much we want to see actual de-escalation and peace, so we just, and no matter statements that we hear from the West, they cannot be trusted. And unlike me, by the way, and our community that have no access to classified information, Russian president has access to all information, right? Not just open sources, but classified. And I guess he's being briefed. He made these statements today during the Security Council meeting, open part of it, right? And meeting itself time and place was clearly indicating, in my personal opinion, that he's been briefed on some stuff that Western elites are planning, something negative. And only because of it, he went to make this very strong warning that if forced, Russia will use their military and technical means to deal with the hostile. So I guess yes, I can see your point. We wasted a lot of time while hoping that maybe we can find common ground with the Western elites. We cannot, man. They're gonna lie to us constantly, always. They have no reverse gear, and the only way they might behave adequately is if they know for sure that otherwise they're gonna face consequences. That's it, right? And I think that time is coming when they will be put in place. It seems to me. Thank you very much, Scooby, once again for your another donation and their super chat. I think I highlighted all their super chat and their right. All the donations and super chats were highlighted. And dear friends, let me now go through chat, and I will react on at least several questions that are directed to me. I can see Nikos left. I don't know if Nikos is still here, but let me read Nikos's comment, dear friends. Well, Levan, I know how you feel. Google has suspended all my payment profiles, and it's possible this is permanent. That means you won't see any more of my messages on the Duran. This is very unfortunate. Nikos, you are, I will say, one of the biggest supporters of alternative media, at least as far as I can tell. I see many times your super chats on Duran, on other channels too. Recently, I see your comment on Daniel Davis's show, I believe, if I remember correctly. So you've done a great support for alternative media outlets. So it's sad to hear that your profiles were suspended. Probably this is some temporary measure, hopefully, but you just never know, And also, Nikos continues, it's not final, but they did not like my activity. Oh, they would not like your activity for sure. I mean, you have a very strong opinions on many issues, and that's why I remember a couple of days ago, while commenting on your question, I said, why don't you make your channel? Just make YouTube channel and share your opinion. You are well versed, in many topics. Also, Nikos is writing that it's probably for the best. I'm contemplating to starting my military service the next month. You probably won't have my questions here either. Well, that's very serious decision, obviously, Nikos, to join military. I don't know. It's all I can say is be strong, be strong, and you are a good human being, by the way. That's my impression. And just take care of yourself. If joining armed forces will bring you happiness, then go for it. But it's a very serious decision. It's a decision that it's definitely not me that can recommend anything. It has to be your decision, and only your family members or close friends can tell you something about it. So in any case, good luck to you, Nikos, and take care of yourself, you know. And there was a super chat, dear friends. Right now, let me highlight, dear friends. Just a sec, dear friends. And thank you very much for being here. We have a good conversation, isn't it? I mean, hopefully you did like the news segment itself, and in question time in community chat also we have a good, interesting conversation. And many thanks for this, dear friends. And let me highlight super chat from Viper. Thank you very much, Viper, for your $10 donation and super chat. Question from Viper is: what do Russians think about Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated? I cannot talk about society in general, because I just have no information about. Maybe there was some studies done after Charlie Kirk's assassination, and people were asked about it, but I did not see it in the media. But from media community and from public figures, judging by their reaction, I can tell you that I mean, everyone was shocked with this assassination. And it's extremely negative emotions. This whole situation generated extremely negative emotions. I think in general, in society, by the way, vast majority who hear about this situation were, I mean, could only have negative emotions about it, because a young man was killed for no reason whatsoever, just for speaking his mind. It's a horrendous crime, isn't it? And the tragedy for first of all for family of the Charlie Kirk and his friends, and then for first of all U.S. society too, because he was a young, extremely popular voice, especially among young generations, right? And who knows what would be his future if this psychopath did not take that shot and kill him, right? So yet again, based on statements from public figures, even from religious figures, by the way, and yesterday, or I believe it was yesterday or day before, I mean, one of the most respected Russian religious figures actually wrote about Charlie Kirk and praised him for his work in terms of defending Christianity, Christian values. So that's the attitude, by the way. That's the attitude. I know Charlie Kirk in US or in the Western world is a dividing figure, kind of. Leftists hate him, or some leftists or ultra-left sidophile hates him, and they celebrated his death, which is sick, by the way. I mean, which is absolutely not normal. You might hate someone, but to celebrate death of their of the human being. It's just not normal. It's just not normal. That's it, period, right? So I know Charlie Kirk is dividing figure in Western societies, in US too, but here in Russia, whoever heard about this tragic story only had negative emotions about it, because how else, you know? And as I said, public figures openly expressed condolences to the family of the Charlie Kirk, and they praised whatever good Charlie Kirk has done, including, as I said, highly respected Russian religious figure that wrote article about it actually, and praised what Charlie Kirk did in terms of promoting Christian values, traditional values, and to defend Christianity. And I think that's the attitude in general, you know. But I cannot tell you how many people in Russia knew anything about Charlie Kirk at all, because people just live their lives, right? And I would not say that, or I would not be surprised at all if vast majority of public here in Russia didn't really know about Charlie Kirk much. And there was also another super chat from Banzo Beans, our moderator. Let me highlight, dear friends. Thank you very much, John, for your super chat and dollar donation. And thank you for your humor. Just another $1 to keep you busy. Thank you, John. This is first time, dear friends. When there was a super chats before, but this is first time when we have there were several donations through PayPal and Boosty, and also quite a number of super chats. This is happening like first time on this scale. So thank you very much, all of you, dear friends, for support and attention, and I'm truly grateful. And I understand John absolutely. He probably thinks Levon wants to go now and sleep. It's almost 1 hour, by the way, at night or in early morning. But anyways, I will just scroll faster in chat, and I will at least try to react on a couple of questions. And I'm scrolling now fast, dear friends, to spot capital Qs. I see question from Dishkumar Levan. How many months is each battalion stays on the line before getting rotated? I don't know, Nidish. This is military stuff, quite specific one, and I don't think our military stay months on a zero line, maybe a week or two, and they are replaced then, because it's a zero line, isn't it? So I don't think our units on a zero line stay more than a week or two. They've been rotated because it's a zero line. Level of stress there is beyond imagination, I can guess, and just to, when you have a capability to do rotations, of course you would do it every couple of weeks, so that militaries are not too stressed psychologically. It's not so much about physical stress, but about psychological stress. So therefore, I think Russian units on a zero line are rotating every week or two. Definitely not many months, by the way. They are going on the front. This is my guess based on what I have read on the matter. They are going on a zero line. They are operating there for certain time, and they've been replaced. And that does not mean that they've been sent home for a month's rest. No, they are just going on a second, or third, fourth line, right? They have a rest. They're receiving reinforcement, munition, supplies, everything, and they're after a week or two going back on a zero line, and this is constant process. That's my understanding of the situation, but I don't think militaries are staying on a zero line for months or 2 months or 3 months. It's just insane, man. Kiev regime's troops might be left for forever on the zero lines. That might be because Zelensky's regime does not care about residents of this former Soviet Republic, Ukraine, but Russia has very different approach. So rotations are constant, and Russian president just a couple of days ago stated that in a zone of special military operation, in general, not on a zero line, but in a zone of special military operation. That means a zero line and all the lines before that, like first line, second, third, and so on. There are 700,000 Russian troops there. Let's scroll through chat. Once again, dear friends, thank you very much for your attention and the support and time and questions and the comments. Also, Nidish is asking how is UN allowing historical revisionism in its presence? I don't know. UN is in dark place. By the way, that's all I can say. UN is in dark place for so many reasons. This is tremendously ineffective institution in many ways. And unfortunately, we don't really have anything better than that. That's tragedy of this world also. I will say that we as a humanity don't really have an international institution better than UN. And UN is, as ineffective as it can get, right? UN and many of the UN bodies that are actually weaponized by the Western elites. So that's why you're gonna see in walls of UN some craziness, total insanity, and it's sad, but that's the reality of the modern days. Also, there was a super chat, dear friends. Let me highlight. Let me highlight, dear friends. This super chat from Sans. So thank you very much again, Sans, for your super chat and donation. It's nice to chat before bed here in Slovenia. It's almost midnight, and I just received my social security. Congratulations. Congratulations with that. I'm not gonna tell you that I understand what that process is, receiving social security and stuff, but it's something good, isn't it? So congrats with that. And yes, it is good. It is good to have a good chat before sleep. And thank you all, dear friends, for this opportunity. And thank you, Sans, personally, for being very active today with the super chats and comments and questions. Thank you Thank you very much. And many thanks to everybody, dear friends, of course, for your attention and support. Thank you. And let me scroll. I'm scrolling fast through chat, dear friends. I'm definitely gonna miss questions, but it's almost 3 hours this live stream, so I think you would not be angry on me if I will end the stream in a minute or two. Tropiliter animal. They're political animals. Sorry, dear friends. I'm tired. I'm tired. Really, I barely read their nickname. Sorry. The political animal. That's their nickname. A pro-government outfit YouTuber banned Maduro's channel. I have read information about Maduro's channel being banned. He had like more than 200,000 subscribers, around 250, which is, I mean, yet again, why? Question is, let him have it say, isn't it? He is a president of the country, but yet again, and with these platforms, by the way, anyone should expect something like that anytime. If you are talking about stuff that globalists or globalist control assets not gonna like, then you might get banned. That it is what it is. And that's why I said quite a few times that I'm quite surprised that YouTube did not block my channel on YouTube already. Probably because our community is tiny and they just didn't pay attention, don't care. But if our community was 100,000, that's a whole different story. Probably they would block channels straight away. And dear friends, if I may, let me end the live stream on that. So, okay, dear friends, thank you all for your attention and support. Please like the video if you have not already. Have a wonderful day and see you tomorrow. Thank you all. John, thank you very much for your support and attention. John is also, of course, a moderator of ours. John Dickinson on YouTube and Banzo Binzer on Rumble. Same person, by the way, two different accounts. Thank you all, dear friends, for your attention, support. Have a wonderful day and take care. See you tomorrow.